Thank you everyone for joining us for our second ComScore TV webinar today. Today we are going to be covering a more intermediate webinar. We are going to be covering advanced report options, custom day parts, and some new functions available inside of date ranges. If you are interested inside of the first webinar, it is available within ComScore TV. You can go to your help pages. So when you sign in, down here at the bottom right, there is a help page icon. You can select that, type in basic filters, and you can see the top result will be ComScore TV basic filters, which is this page right here, where the first webinar is available if you have any interest in watching that. For today, though, our intermediate webinar, we will be focusing on the local version only, as other than specific report differences, such as the new market report or networks instead of stations, the national options for advanced report options and custom date parts and the new date range functions, those are the same as they are in local. We will also not be covering the time-based grid report, as that report does not include advanced report options. All right. To get started, what are advanced report options? Why do we care? Advanced report options enable you to rearrange data and create customized reports. For the users who may not want to explore all the available filtering choices, we do have preset reports available that use the advanced report options. You can find them on your home page underneath this preset reports selection, and it will list out reports for you. You can also find the preset reports in the advanced options in any report. So you can go into time-based, ranker, and instead of having basic selected inside of your first report options, you can select advanced. And down here, under the reporting dimensions and pivots section, this custom group is a drop-down filter that will show you the list of preset reports available within time-based rankers. So if I were to change my report type, say if I want to go to not a time-based ranker, but a program-based ranker, my report type has changed. And so if I go to my custom groups, my preset reports have also changed a bit. If you do want to select a preset report, keep in mind what it will change inside of your filters. It will do automatic changes, and some filters will stay the same as a default selection or a selection you have made. So if I were to select telecast and reach telecast ranker, pay attention over on the left side here inside of the filters bar. At the moment, we currently have stations selected. We currently have 6 metrics, 4 program details, and the default date range for the last final week of full final data. If I were to select a telecast ranker, some of that has changed. So you can see immediately inside of these advanced report options down here in dimension groups, we have dimension group rows and dimension group pivot groups. I will go over those in just a second when we cover customized groups. Our telecast, our series has changed to telecast. Same as over here on the left, our series has changed to telecast. Our date range has not changed, but we now have a single metric selected and 7 program details. These are the changes that are made automatically when selecting a preset report. And if I were to choose a different report, say a series trender, we now have different selections again. We have series and week as my group level 1. We have 6 metrics and 6 program details. Let's show you what a reach telecast ranker looks like. So this is a report that is just a basic reach telecast ranker. These are the automatic selections made when you select a preset report. It will show you the telecasts for your selected stations, the market for the station that was selected, the day of week that the telecast is on, broadcast day, local time, air date, and the one metric that we have selected, which is the reach metric. To create a customized report, let's go back here. That is what you make selections down here for. So we have this little blue plus sign that will open up a list. So first of all, as I mentioned before, we have dimension groups, which are our rows. and we have pivot groups, which are our columns. You will not see the pivot groups option inside of trend reports, as pivot groups are used for the trending function. So the columns are the trending function inside of trend reports. So essentially that space is blank, which you will see in a later report today. Now, if I were to select this plus sign, a list will appear for selections that you can make, and you can rearrange your report by. You will not see metrics, demographics, or program filters inside of this list. You will only see programming levels, certain time periods, and a list of programming types. Now, if you want to change what you want to select, you can deselect what is currently inside of your group level. Then you will need to use the plus sign and reselect them. Otherwise, if you were just to use the plus sign and select something, it will add it to what is currently already selected. For what will change to different reports, much like the preset groups, you will actually see different changes to this list depending on what report you are in. So this telecast option is not going to be available in trend reports, and the series and telecast options are not available in time-based reports. You will also see in time-based reports, this time period list is going to be a little bit longer. It's going to include an hour and a quarter hour option, whereas also in time-based reports, our program type list is going to be much shorter. So inside of program-based reports, you're going to see a lot more program types. And inside of time-based reports, you're going to see a lot more time periods. Let me show you, for example, back to our time-based ranker. So we're now in a time-based ranker report. We're going to look at this list again. And here we have it. We have a time period list that includes hour and quarter hour, and a much shorter, only a single selection for program type. For common uses for advanced report options, we have a couple to show today. So for our first report, we have this average grouping of data. So for this report, I have selected specifically a couple of stations and two specific series and telecasts within those two stations. What I have done here is I have created a multiple row, multiple group advanced report option. So my very first group level 1 is going to be this first line here, and that is going to be the average data for everything below it. So my group level 1 is November 2023. I have chosen the month advanced report option from the time period selections. And for my second group level 2, I will show you what I mean instead of second. I have chosen station. So since I have selected two stations, I have two group level 2s within this report. If I wanted to know just the average data for these two, I can collapse those and I can see, all right, for my selections that I have made for the final week of data inside of November, I have two series that I have selected, one series within each station, and here's the average data for those series within the week I have selected. And the group level 1, my month, is the average data for those two series within my selections. I could also remove the station row, and the data would be exactly the same for the month row because I have only selected two series. Using the advanced report options in this way is the only way to get one average of data for two or more stations. I could have selected 5 stations or more, and I would still be able to get an average data for those stations. I could also do the same with if I have chosen a few series or episodes within different stations, and I have those selected and I just want to know the average of all of those together, then I would choose a time period selection. You do this by adding, let me see here, going into report options once more to show you. We're in our advanced, and here's what that report has looked like. So I have my group level 1 as a time period. We use time period the most to make an average of a grouping because you want to have a time period that is greater than your date selection. This is, if I have a week, a week here selected instead of a month, I'm going to show you in the next report. I currently have my week and my month. If I were to select a week, it would actually break out my report not by an average of all of the data that I would like to know. It will break out by, oh, you just want to know the week of data. And it, depending on whether or not you have a larger date range or a shorter date range of that week, it may separate it out into multiple weeks, or it may separate it out into multiple days if you've chosen broadcast day. Let me show you the next one then to kind of showcase what I mean by that. So here, I've actually changed my date range. My date range is now the last final week of October and the first 2 weeks of November. I still have my same 2 stations selected, though I am not filtering those by 2 separate series. But because I still have my month as my main selection, but it is now covering data for the month of October and the month of November, it has separated out those 2 months. So this is still average data for the 2 stations together, but this is average data for the month of October and the average data for the 2 weeks I've selected in the month of November. If I were to choose a week with this same date range, this is what that will look like. So I still have my 3 weeks that I have selected for my date range. I still have my 2 stations, but instead of separating out by 2 months, I now have 1 week of October. I have 2 weeks of November all separated out. This is still going to be the average data for these 2 stations during my selected time periods, but it is separated out. It is not an average of the entire time I have selected for those 2 stations. In order to do that, I would need to go to my report options, change my group level 1 selection from a week, and instead choose either a quarter or a year. A quarter because my 2 months are within the same quarter, or a year just because both October 2023 and November 2023 fall under the same year. If you were to try and do the same report for a December 2023 and a January 2024, even using the year time period selection, it will still separate out those 2 date ranges by the months that they are inside of the year. So we'll separate by 2023 and separate by 2024. If I were to choose a broadcast day, here's what that looks like. I've shown also the week here is my group level 1 and my broadcast day is my group level 2 to show you how it's separated out. If I were to just choose broadcast day, it would show me the 4 days that I have selected. I have decreased my date range slightly to show you this. And you can see my individual days. Here's the average for these 2 stations for these individual days. But here's the average for all 4 days because this week selection is a greater date range or greater time period than my currently selected date range. And so I now have both the individual selections for here's my average audience and my average rating for these 2 stations for November 24th. But here's the average audience and average rating for the entire week that I have selected. And if you do want to use program types instead of a time period, such as I've currently selected week and broadcast day, but if I want to instead choose, I don't want to look at it by a time period, I want to see what these program types will do. I want to know what are my exception types? What is the average data of a new series that I have? You can use these to a very similar effect. It will look very similar, but it will average data for the flagged telecasts that match your selected program type. There are cases where this might be the full average for the station, but more often than not, let me show you here what it looks like. I've used a local news. More often than not, it is going to separate out, all right, we have KPTV and KOIN. These 2 stations are currently showing the data for telecasts that are flagged as local news. These not local news are telecasts that are flagged as anything except local news. So it will separate out this way, and it will not give you a full average for all telecasts that KPTV and KOIN have. There are a few cases where that program type will give the average data, but it is subject to changes. Obviously, if you have selected your program type filter to be local news only, that will likely give you exactly what you need. It will give you only local news, only that line, instead of not local news, as everything should already have been flagged as local news. There are also cases inside of a date range or a day part selection that you have made where it is narrowed down to an area where you only have local news within your station. That will also show you only local news within your station, but those are subject to the filters you have already selected. Another example that we quite often get is, how do I view my stations as a column? So let me show you the next option. You can normally do this by looking at a Trender report. So we currently have this Trender report in front of us. So our stations as a columns, what we would like to do is we would like to see, instead of a station as a row as we normally see them, we'd like to see our station in this column position instead. This is quite easy to do inside of a Trender. You can just use this pivot view function right here. Inside of a Trender, there is one other function available that you cannot get by using advanced report options inside of a ranker though. So a Trender report will have this percent change so long as there are 2 or more time period columns within your report. I currently have a date range of August 2023 to October 2023. So my time period selection is 3 months. And since I have 3 months of data, I now have this percent change available. And I can see a percent change by month for rating and average audience, my 2 selected metrics. If I wanted to see in a Trender my station and my months transposed, I would like to see my station as my column and my months as my rows. I can just use this transpose pivot. And there we have it. We have our station as our column and our months as our rows. You can do this very similarly inside of a ranker by using the advanced report options. So this looks like the exact same report, but instead of being inside of a Trender report, it is actually a program-based ranker report. How I've done this is inside of my advanced report options, I have selected a group level 1 as station. So my row is going to be my station, and my pivot, my columns, are going to be my month. If I go back to my report, you can see the only difference for this report function that you can see is there is no percent change available. But I can still transpose pivot, and I can still have my stations as my columns and my months as my rows. You can also do this just by using advanced report options without needing to create a report and go into your pivot. You can just go back to report options and change these around. So I can instead do, I don't want month there, I don't want station there. Instead, I want my month as my row and my station as my column. And that will give you the exact same report as the transposed report. I will note that the pivot function is only available inside of ranker reports if you are using this pivot group column. Without a selection inside the pivot group column, you will not see the option to transpose a pivot. Now, a third very common request that we get is, how do we break out a report by day part? This is often done by using advanced report options. It is the one that we suggest most often. So you can not transpose, but you can break out your report by using this day part time period filter. And we quite often use station, series, or telecast, depending on your need. And if we run the report, that'll look like this. You don't need to make any day part selections, just that one selection of please break out my report by day part in my group level 1 will give me all of the day parts that I have for my date range. So for my 4 days that I have selected here, I'm currently seeing data for early fringe, daytime, all standard day parts for my 2 stations. And yes, the bolded line is going to be the average data of the 2 stations I have selected. You can also do this by breaking out custom day parts. So if I were to instead use not my standard day parts, but if I were to create a custom day part. So into custom day parts, I've moved over to my day parts filter. I currently haven't made any selections, but I do want to create and change some custom day parts to add to my report. So to do that, I'm going to go down to the bottom here to custom day parts, going to add a day part, and I want to do both a single row custom day part and a multiple row custom day part. So for that, I want for my first single row custom day part to be at 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Save, because I want this to be used. If it is currently able to be edited, this is not yet added to your report. So if I save as and name it Monday through Friday, 4 a.m. to 7 a.m., it is now grayed out and it is now added to my report underneath my name. You can see over on the left, I have my custom day part selected. It is named and it is available for me to use. Now, if I were to add another day part, here's where I'm going to add my multiple row custom day part. So I would like to do, instead of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, I want Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. But on that same row of data, I also want to know Tuesdays from 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. So what I did there is I added a row to my same custom day part. So it's currently going to show me inside of a single row, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, data from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. and also data from Tuesday, 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. Now, if I save this, here's my custom, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. and Tuesday, 3 a.m. to 3 p.m. Save. My title has been changed and my custom day part is now grayed out. If I don't want a custom day part within the same report, I can use this little trash can. This little trash can does not delete your custom day part. It will just remove it from your current selections. So if I just press that, it is now removed. If I want to get it back, but I don't know quite where I've saved it, here's where you find it. Up at the top, we are actually bolded under standard. So we're currently looking at standard day parts with a custom day part at the bottom. But here in saved day parts, this is where all of our custom saved day parts are saved. So here's the one we have just created. I do want to add this back, so I'm going to just press on it. And you can see over here on the right, it has been added. I also have a couple others. I do want to add this the Saturday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. I want that one also on my report. But this example one, I don't really need this one anymore. I don't really want it. So back over on the right here, I'm going to look at these 3 standing ellipses, these 3 blue dots, select that, and I can either edit it, view it and edit it to change it to something that I do need, or I can just delete it. And that is how you delete a saved custom day part. If I go back to my standard tab, or even just look over to the left and I see my custom day part selections, I can see my 3 custom day parts have been selected. And you will see in the inside of the day parts, they are all grayed out and they are all named. Now, if I were to just run my report like this, you will see it returns, and now my day parts are all custom day parts. Since I have made three custom day parts and I haven't selected any standard day parts, my report automatically will just give me my custom day parts that I've created and selected. Much like you will need to select other filters if you want to have your report filter by that. If you do want specifically your report to have standard day parts, you will need to reselect standard day parts that you need if you also have a custom day part selection. You can actually combine standard day parts and custom day parts if you wish. However, the report will, depending on what the selections have been made, they can have overlapping data. Let me show you here. Here's where I have my Saturday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., but I also have a standard day part daytime selected. You can see, if you take a little bit closer look, the telecasts underneath these times, they are very similar. There's only one telecast inside of daytime that is not also inside of my Saturday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. So we have CBS NFL National, Phil, same broadcast day, same local time, same rating and average audience. These are the exact same telecasts. One telecast twice inside of the same report. So you keep in mind that if you are using both custom day parts and standard day parts, some overlap may be there. You may also find, if you go into your day parts here, you may also find if you have a custom day part and you are selecting something odd inside of your standard day parts here, such as I have my custom day part for Saturday and Sunday, but I also want to know all data for weekdays. But this is going to return an error. This is because it's going to default to trying to give you your custom day part selection before anything else. It is going to try and give you your data from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, and it's going to become very confused on why you also want data from all weekdays when you very specifically specified Saturday and Sunday. Now, if you do select not weekdays, but just weekends, this will return the exact same data as Saturday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. If you were to select an hour, however, that will return this error. So you can see, sorry, no results have returned. This is because your report is trying to return 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. first. And then it's wondering, there's no data for 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. that is also at 3 a.m. So those are some specifications that you may come across when using custom day parts. For our last filter to use today, we are actually going to show you some new date range functions that are now available. So let me show you the report we have for that. Here is our date range as a group level 1, our month as a group level 1, and our station as a group level 2. Let me show you what I mean by that. So we currently have a couple date ranges selected. And here's what I mean. Our new function for date ranges is that you can add new periods. So you can add something to your current selections without using your date exclusions. So you can add 3 days, you can add a few days of, you can add a few more, you can enter in a new time. You can delete certain periods. What I have currently chosen for this report is I have chosen my very first date range period to be the first week of September, my second date range period to be 3 weeks in the middle of October, and my last date range period to be the last week of full final data in November. Inside of my advanced report options, how I'm showing that in this current report is I am using the date range time period. This is a new filter inside of advanced report options that allows you to view your report by specific date ranges you have selected. You will not be able to select date range as a single dimension group. So you will have to, if you remove month here, your report is not going to return. It is going to return an error. So you can use either station here as well. You can use series and telecast. I tend to use month, especially with this current report. because it is currently breaking out not only by my date range, but it's telling me what broadcast month that report is in. So back to my report. I have chosen the first week of September. This is within broadcast September, as you can see. This is the average data for these two stations for that first week of September. I have my 3 weeks in October. They are all within October. And this is average data for those 3 weeks in October for these two stations. Same with the last final week of data in November. So, to clarify, you can make any selection that you need within this report, but it is all going to be under the exact same group level 1 row. And if you make other selections down here, they will be inside of the other selections down below. And that concludes both advanced report filters, our custom day parts, and the new functions available for date ranges. I'm going to hand you back over to Clem. Thank you for joining, everyone.